Hey everybody, welcome back. Scott Robinson with you on our latest edition of Beyond the Humidor. And as usual, I am with my fellow cohorts here with Greg and Larry. How you guys doing?
Good. Fantastic.
Oh yeah, we switched it up a little bit because I kind of ran low on the Macallan, so it's Johnny Walker Blue Night. How you enjoying that, Larry?
That's good. Smooth.
Mm-hmm. Oh, for sure. I'm loving it. And it's going really nicely with the cigar I'm smoking right now. But before I get into that, I want to welcome our guests. We've got the founder of Sinistro Cigars with us, James Agopian. Welcome to the show, James. How you doing?
Great, man. Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be on.
Hey, man, it's great to have you on. We've been trying to work this for a while, so I'm real happy that you came on out.
Yeah, it was hard because I was living in the Dominican for 8 months, so
right.
It was a little tricky, but we got it done. Yeah. We're here.
Yeah, and you based out of Southern California, my loving home, out of Glendale, in fact.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, but there's a difference between Glendale and Watts.
Well, yeah, I was going to, well, before you interrupted, I was going to say, I was from a little south.
Central.
Yes. Amen to that. Oh, man. But, we want to get with you, James, and just talk about your line, because you've got some great stuff out there. You put out things such as the Mr. White, the Mr. Black, the Mr. Red, the Candela. Which one was that one, Larry? That
Candela is based off of a Mr. Red.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
So the Mr. Candela is based off the Mr. Red. It was actually, so I smoked a few Candelas, and I actually found one that another company makes that I was impressed with, because I was never impressed with the Candela. So it was kind of more like a challenge to me to go make something that actually is not going to be overtones of grass and bitterness. So I was blending for a few days, and nothing was really working. And I just grabbed the Mr. Red out of the aging room, and I went up to the roller, and I was like, hey, put the Candela on this thing real quick. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I was like, dude, just put the Candela on the Mr. Red the way it is. So they thought I was crazy because you're putting a wrapper on a wrapper. So they're like, it doesn't make sense because the wrapper is the most expensive part and it's the most beautiful part. Why are you covering it up? So
right.
Finally, I made them just roll 5 of them, and me, one of the blenders from the factory, Coleman, my partner, and a few other guys from the factory, we started smoking it, and it was literally I wasted 4 days of blending for nothing.
Nice. Sorry to put you on the spot, Larry. Only reason I was asking you is because we were talking about it earlier, and you were planning to smoke the Candela this evening.
I actually stepped away from that, because I didn't know that they had the Mr. White Gold Edition in. So I've got one of those that I lit up when I got here. I'm almost done with that, and then I got another one ready to go, so I'm not cigarless here for 2/3 of the podcast. First one of these, I'm really impressed.
Usually when you do something back to back like that, it should mean it's a good cigar, right? So,
no, this has got a great flavor.
Yeah.
It's burned really nice. I haven't had to touch this up once. A 5x50 Robusto.
52.
52.
Yeah.
Okay. And this is amazing, man. I really like this.
Yeah, I got to say, I'm really liking the white gold here. I did mine in Churchill.
Yeah.
So I'm smoking the Churchill, and I'm at the first third, and it's burning real nice. I like the taste. And Greg, I think you're smoking the same thing as well.
I'm just getting ready to light mine up, but this is also the first show in 52 episodes now that we actually have the manufacturer sitting here with our cigar of the month, which happens to be the Sinistro Mr. White Gold Edition.
Most definitely, and again, I'll say it's an honor.
Oh, thank you guys for having me, man. It's an honor to be on. I tell everyone I just clean the floors in the Dominican. I just pretend like I'm the owner. So, but you guys got bamboozled.
That's okay.
Hey, that works. As long as you can sell it, we're good.
Yeah, it's not good. Don't worry. But yeah, that was our latest release that we just did this year. It just started shipping a couple months ago. So stores are just barely getting them, and they're just introducing them to customers. We usually do a pre-release, so we really pre-released it last year and then released it this year.
Okay.
But it's been doing phenomenally well on the market for being out for like 2 months now. I think people are used to the flavor profile from smoking the pre-releases, and then now it actually helps move the product when we've noticed when we do a pre-release, because people are eager for the actual release next year. And we did like a total different box and band for the pre-release and the actual release.
Okay. Now tell me, how long have you been in the cigar? Well, before we get into how long you've been in the cigar game, how long have you been a cigar smoker?
Same amount of time I've been in the cigar game.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, so I've been in the cigar industry for about 19 years now. So I was telling Larry about this. I fell into a shop. I really was never I was never a smoker. I wasn't really interested in cigars, and my father had a partner in one of the businesses. It was technically a business that I had started earlier. The money had fallen into the other business, and my dad decided to open up a cigar shop with one of his friends.
Okay.
And the employee didn't show up one day, so they called me and they're like, "Hey, can you come in and watch the shop for us?" And I didn't even have the keys to the place, so I had to stop at my dad's office, pick up the keys, and then go to the shop. And I remember, because when you if you don't know anything about cigars and you walk into a cigar store, you're obviously looking for the best looking thing, right?
Yeah.
So the thing that stuck out to me the most from that quick glance at the humidor the first time was a Macanudo Portofino. It was in a. But then most people don't understand. Back then, there wasn't that many cigars that you could pick from like we do have now. Like the boutique boom never happened. There was literally on Maduro's like VSG and Perdón Aniversario, and you would find like little boutiques here and there that had a Maduro wrapper, but then they would disappear all of a sudden, and you're like, what happened to that company? So I saw Macanudo Portofinos, and I grabbed that, and I smoked it, and I was like, this thing tastes like cardboard. Like, I don't understand how people smoke. Like, this is disgusting. Like, it's not, like, enjoyable. And one of the days I went in, back in the day, like 19 years ago, when you ordered Padron, you had to order 10 boxes to get one box of the Anniversario. Okay. So, like, I saw it hidden box somewhere in the humidor, and I just, like, went in for it. I opened it up, and they looked like little chocolate bars, So I was like, oh, this looks good. So I grabbed one, started smoking it, and I was like, wow, this is delicious. So, like, 75% of the box in, I called my dad's partner, and I was like, hey, man, why don't you have a whole bunch of these all over the place? You need to order more of these. These are phenomenal. You should have all these. Like, what did you do to that box? I was like, well, I'm almost done with it, but, like, grab a few more, Like, we need more of this stuff. And he's like, do you realize? And then that's when I found out, that you can't just smoke those, like, they're candy bars. So and now it's a little bit easier on the retailer. They don't have those stuff that they have to deal with the said company. But and then into that, the employee never came back. I started working the whole week, and I kind of started enjoying it. I bought out my dad's business partner, and I paid back my dad, and the shop was mine at like a year into working there.
Okay, so what was the most enjoyable part of the experience, if you can convey that? The whole cigar smoking experience, was it taste? Was it the social aspect?
At first, I think it was more the social aspect. Because, when you first start smoking, your palate is not super refined, obviously. So, later on, like 5 years into smoking, I started picking up more nuances of flavor profiles or notes that I obviously never found in the cigar 5 years before, and it's the same cigar, So I would have to admit, it's more the social aspect. The fact that, like, I was sitting in my lounge, any kind of walk of life could come in there, and, he could be not going into politics, but somebody could be totally left and someone else could be totally right, and they could just sit down and have a cigar with each other. I thought that was a very cool thing, and not fight, and not just be able to mesh as human beings together, and leave everything at the door,
Right.
And I thought that was cool. And obviously, you go into some shops and people are fighting and yelling and this and that, but at the end of the day, when there's still camaraderie between them, even though they might have minds that are like super one-sided and another guy's mind is super one-sided, and they might be arguing, but it's not like we're gonna kill each other arguing. It's kind of like more camaraderie arguing, like laughing, joking. saying like talking shit about your opinion and you're talking shit about his opinion. You know, I'm sure you guys obviously know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah, most definitely. I think that's what attracts a lot of us to it. You know, you start out with your first cigar, and I think you touched upon what was your very first cigar? Was that Mexican?
Portofino. Yeah,
Okay.
Unfortunately, it was that Portofino. Yeah.
But I think we all started out like that because
Yeah.
I didn't know what the hell I was doing. My old college roommate, he gave me a cigar. It was a Macanudo, in fact, and we were smoking out in front of a Starbucks. And you know, never had cigars before. Took a puff, and it was just like, okay, this is okay. You know, it's like, you know, they always tell you don't inhale.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, cool. So I'm just smoking along, and we're sitting here talking about old times, stuff we did together in college, all sorts of crazy shit. And it was just like, you know, I like this. And found myself going to, back then it was in the mall, like the Briar Patch.
Yeah.
You know, those chains shops. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing. It was just, oh, let me find a cigar. And then you try to have this system. Mine was, find the most expensive cigar because I don't want this to be a huge habit. It's just going to be a treat.
Yeah.
And then as I started smoking more and liking it, it's kind of like, wait, these are $4.95. Let me go pick up like about, you know, 8 or 9 of these and smoke these. But again, when you start out, your tastes aren't refined, so you don't know what you're smoking.
Yeah. You know, and one good thing that I see happen with the boom right now, like when we were first starting out, there, like when you walked into a shop, it was more of like the boys club, right? If you weren't part of that boys club and you were a newbie, it was kind of more like frowned upon when you walked in or you asked a question. Now, I find more shops are like, you know, taking the whole craft idea and actually teaching the people that walk in, like new guys, which I think is totally helping our industry grow. You know, just like I know a lot of people talk shit about, you know, acid cigars or whatever. I feel like that actually helps our industry out a lot because you have a lot of guys that start there and actually gradually move forward. You know what I mean? So like, there's a place for everything in our industry, and I like the fact that our industry is becoming more into teaching people and teaching the consumer and learning as opposed to just, oh yeah, good luck in the humidor. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you know, we've touched upon that in some episodes, and I usually tell people, and we are huge champions of the brick and mortar.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's okay to do your online shopping for stuff that's hard to find, but it's so important to support the brick and mortars, especially the ones where you come in and they're there to, I don't want to say teach, but open your eyes to different cigars. I think that's real important. You know, that's a great boon to this industry, is that there's so much information. I mean, you know, a newbie walking into a humidor, especially one as big as ours, and, you know, there's been, you know, huge ones, or like, Greg, you went to Cigars International back on the East Coast, and that's just literally wall-to-wall cigars.
It's the whole building's a humidor.
Yeah, so, you know, think of it, you know, as a noob walking in there, you don't know what the hell you're looking at. It's just like, well, what do I do? Do I just go in here and grab something with a pretty label? And I mean, to the industry's credit, a lot of proprietors are opening their eyes to the fact that when that noob walks in, it's like, that's a potential customer. That's a potential lifelong customer even.
Well, not even a new.
Yeah.
It's as the products expand, evolve, that's that proprietor's responsibility in the brick and mortar to educate, provide the information on those new products, even to his everyday customers. Hey guys, this is new. This came out. Let's give it a try. You know,
You like this, so this should be around your flavor
it's-
profile. You know, like
yeah, definitely. You know, expand the experience, and you know, most of us, by and large, want to talk about things that we're passionate about. You know, so if you find something you like, whether it's a cigar, whether it's a scotch, whether it's a beer, whether it's a car, whether it's a whatever, you're telling other people about it, man. And that was the cool thing about coming in here for a long time. And we have a air filter system in here now, so you can breathe.
it's always a plus.
Well, these guys will attest that wasn't the case in this shop years ago.
We cannot actually attest.
No, you guys missed it.
Yeah, I missed
kind
that.
of air filter system. So it was a challenge to get from the front door to the door of the humidor, because the smoke would be about a foot and a half off the ground. You know, it looked like a forest fire in here all the time, and it was rough, and it wasn't comfortable. You know, they always had chairs. But it wasn't comfortable to sit in here and smoke because I couldn't see you, and I was getting everybody else's cigar from all day long. So, you know, creating an environment, having a product, educating people about that product. The industry has come so far because I've been smoking 30 years. You know, not daily like I do now, but I was lucky. I started off in this. I was in the bar business, and
You could smoke in a bar.
you could smoke back then. And the guy I worked with, his older sister was an international stewardess for American Airlines, so she was bringing stuff in that I didn't know anything about cigars. Here, you want to try this? Oh, hey, this is pretty good. So we were smoking them, you know, after work, and you know, a couple times a month we were playing, you know, poker, you know, in the middle of the night when the bar closed, and you smoke cigars. And it just kind of gradually moved along, and now, you know, it's almost a daily occurrence for me.
Mm-hmm. That's kind of like how it started with me too. Like I wasn't big into smoking, and once I started working at a shop, you know, all my friends at the time were like 19, 20 years old. This is when the age was 18, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
And like, but some guys, like friends that I had that would never even look at a cigar, I got him into smoking. You know what I mean? And that's the thing is like, some people associate like smoke as smoke. They don't look at it like, okay, has no additives. There's no chemicals in this. And then once you start educating people, they're like, oh wow, like I wouldn't mind trying that. So it's definitely like a full circle what happened with the industry from actually when I started till now, and you know, that's I think helped with the boom. I think COVID obviously helped with the boom. People sitting at home and smoking, and they have more time on their hands. So you know, all these little things kind of helped our industry grow, especially the last like few years.
Now, I got to say, you're an example of living a dream. I mean, you started out at a cigar shop, wound up, you know, owning a shop, and then you come out with your own line. We had an episode where we talked about the whole challenge of trying to start your own line. Can you tell us some of the challenges and pratfalls you had with that?
Yeah. So dealing with the third world country was very difficult. Business is done like somewhat more different there. So that was very, very hard to deal with and navigate. Luckily, I knew cigars. And the first few factories, I'll be honest, I walked into, and as a shop owner, I was kind of like, and not to tell everyone like, oh, it's a big scam and this and that, but you know, I felt like I knew I was going to be taken advantage of if I continued doing business with them there. So you gotta work with a brand that is kind of more vertical. They grow their own tobacco.
Yeah.
They have their own rollers. So I was very, very lucky that I did really good business with La Aurora, and I had gone and checked out a whole bunch of different factories. I had a few of them that were the hottest cigars in the time that were willing to make my cigars. But out of my head, I'm like, you know, these guys are making, you know, right now they're the hottest things out. So, you know, if they make mine, are they gonna not respect the blend? But you know, if obviously if they need their stuff out, I'll be second. To them.
Of course.
So I wanted to work with a big factory that knew how to grow, that wasn't super popular at the time, that had access to everything. And not that like La Aurora is not super popular; they're one of the legends in the industry. But on the West Coast, they had taken a little dip at the time, so I felt like they would be more. They'd be more interested in my blends and what I was doing, as opposed to like, hey, we got to make 1 million cigars this month because we have this much selling this month. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was very tricky. Getting the tobacco you want is kind of hard. You see big boutiques that are allocating Connecticut broadleaf right now because they can't get enough. So
Okay.
we have access to all the broadleaf we want. So. That was very tricky. You need a safety net always, because one thing is you're paying for boxes and bands and all this other stuff up front. You know what I mean? Like months ahead of time if you want to make sure you have a good schedule to keep, and whatever is going on. Like last year, it was a problem with production because there was not enough rollers and the boom was going on at the same time. So you just gotta deal with what you have to deal with at the time. If there's not enough rollers, you gotta do what you gotta do. So we were doing everything we could to make sure we could still bring product out, but obviously keep the same quality or level of quality to get going. And then the hardest part is getting into shops. The first 3 years, everyone was like, "Who the fuck are you, and why the fuck would anyone want to buy your cigars?" And that's very depressing. 3 years of constant not like get the fuck out of my shop, but like in a very nice way, like get the fuck out of my shop, like you're wasting my time.
Yeah,
so,
we have no space for you.
yeah, exactly. And like, and look, California, you're talking about small humidors. So not only do they not have space for you, like they really don't have space for you because their humidors are very, very small. Like it's as opposed to Texas where they have huge humidors. So, like the brand being built had to be built here because I lived here in California.
Yeah.
So it was a very hard struggle. And if you talk to anybody in the industry, they'll tell you California is the hardest place to get into stores. There's huge boutiques that don't even want to touch California, or California is like their last like they've been going for 6-7 years, and yeah, they might make a trip or two out to California, but it's not something that they're digging into. And California is only second to Texas in the industry for like what state you technically want to be in. So even being second, people just don't want, like they want to stay away from California. So that was a very huge uphill climb, trying to convince all these store owners, like don't worry, I'll support you. And there's a lot of brands that have come and gone throughout the years, and a lot of boutiques brands that have come and gone. So a lot of these store owners are looking at you like, hey, you'll be gone in a month. And when you're gone and your product's sitting here and it's not moving, I'm stuck with you. You know what I mean? So that's kind of what you're following up with, is all these boutiques that might have not made it in the brand or in the shop. So like that's the hardest part, is getting accounts and being noticed in the industry, because it's very hard to be noticed in this industry.
So it's not really a board of equalization or California's anti-tobacco stance. It's more of shelf space.
Yeah. I mean, look, I have the California license, so all California stores that order from me are paying on a lower tax. Like, let's say the tax is 65% in California, or it's like 63 and change, right?
Yeah.
Mine, because I have the California license and I'm paying on my prices, it's closer to 30 or 20% the tax, as opposed to the 65%. So even with that, it was still an uphill climb to try to get these stores to come in and buy the brand. And
you got guys waiting for you to be successful, but not participating in you being successful. Jesus, that'd be a pain in the ass.
I begged God knows how many reps to, like, because I was like, okay, I did the blends. Obviously they're good blends. They're doing decent in the shops they're in, but I'm not a salesperson. I'm still not a salesperson, dude. Sometimes I'll leave stores and the owner will be like, hey man, make sure before you leave, make sure you take an order, and he'll be with the customer, and I'll be like, hey man, I'm out, and I'll walk out, and like 2 blocks down the street, he'll call me and he'll be like, hey man, I told you not to leave without getting an order. Can you come back? I'm like, oh shit, sorry, I'll come back now. Or I'll leave a store and like we have a new product out, and maybe the owner's even seen it all over Instagram, and I'll be walking out and I'll be like, James, dude, don't you have a new product out? Like, I just saw it on Instagram. Like, don't you want to show me? I'm like, oh yeah, dude, that's what I'm here for. I forgot. So like, I'm not a good salesman at all. Even like the guys, like I travel with my reps sometimes, and they all say like, you're a horrible salesman, dude. Like but who knows? Maybe that's what helped me get to where I'm at today, where most people. And another thing that I guess helped me out was I used to be a retailer before, so I know like if you're especially if you're in California, I know the ups and downs of being a retailer. So I try to help my accounts as much as I can. If I know, some guys are on 3 months for the tax board that they have to pay the tobacco tax. Some guys are month to month, but sometimes to get an allocation of a certain cigar, you have to spend X amount with this company. So like now you're near your allocation, but you know, you have to spend $5,000, but the tax is 65%. So now you're at 12 grand for that same order.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell shops, like, bro, listen, like, if you need 2 more weeks, no problem. Like, it's not a big deal. Like, I could wait it out. So I think stuff being more attentive to my customers, not selling online myself. We do have online sales, obviously, but other people sell the brand online. So that's kind of a thing I wanted to make sure I didn't do, like sell to consumers myself. I think those things did help. You know, you see some of these boutiques, they come out and they don't do well, and then they sell direct to consumer. Yeah, you're doing decent, all right, but you know, you want to make yourself known to the whole world.
Well, you're also shooting yourself in the foot where you want to primarily be is in that brick and mortar store.
Because at the end of the day, if you're a manufacturer, you want to deal with less people, not more people. So if you're dealing direct to consumer, now you're dealing with the whole world, as opposed to, you know, if I'm a manufacturer, I deal with Craig and Ron, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
As opposed to, and everybody that distributes for me out of the country, it's one person. It's not all the stores in Italy that I sell to. I sell to one person in Italy, and he distributes out to all the stores. So I just, like, if I was selling direct to consumer, I would be so overloaded right now with what's going on. Like, it just wouldn't make sense for me. But I think that's the biggest downfall for most of the boutiques that start, is when you go direct online to consumer, you really hurt yourself.
I can see that. Now, I notice you're smoking the Lost Cowboy.
Yeah.
Okay, now, I have a couple of them in my humidor. Greg, we smoked, we had like 4 of them and tried them out, and it's a really good stick.
It was Cigar of the Month, beginning of the year, I think?
Yeah, it was around the beginning.
I think.
Around the beginning of the year, and it has, and I noticed yours doesn't have it, but it had was it a candela leaf?
Yeah,
or-
candela tip.
Yeah, well, no, it was something wrapped around it.
Oh, that's the Scala. So, okay.
Yeah.
So that's a special Vitola we make just for us. And I know, and I hate saying this because I know this is like the old story. Oh, there's only one roller in the Dominican who knows how to roll that cigar. That was the old thing with the Salomon, and that's when it came out, and that's why it was such a big deal. But ours really is, there's only one roller in the factory that can roll them, and it's because of this. So it's a grade A leaf that's going down. The Mr. White, Mr. Red, and Mr. Black all have that same Vitola. The Last Cowboy just happens to have a Candela. The Red has the 10-year-old HVA on it. The Mr. Black has the San Andreas Maduro, and so does the Mr. White. So what they do is they take the grade A wrapper, they twist it up, and then they have to put it around the cigar. Now, obviously, we don't want the cigar to have glue up and down the cigar. So with one hand, you have to slightly put a little bit of glue, and not everywhere, because you don't want that. It's a cigar glue that every cigar uses. It's a tree sap. It's normal. Every cigar you smoke has this glue. I just don't want anyone to be like, "Oh, you got glue on your cigar." So yeah, it's normal. Every cigar company uses it. If you smoke the cigar, you smoke that. So when we go down and around, you don't want it to be everywhere. You want it maybe here, and then another one on this circle going down, and this circle going down. So now when we had other people in the factory try to roll it, they would get glue up and down the cigar, because you have glue on one hand and you're trying to twist and you have to twist the cigar to get it around.
Yeah.
So we've had a few people try, and literally, not because of the dabs they're putting, but because they're using one hand to hold the tobacco and then the other hand to roll it, their fingers are slipping across the wrapper and getting tobacco. They're getting the glue all around and down. So with that cigar, with that size, we can't pick and choose how many we get in. We could just tell the factory to concentrate on what brand we want, and then, you know, we could be like, when you hit 100 boxes of this, then move to this. When you hit 50 boxes of this, move to this one. And then that's pretty much how we gauge it. So sometimes we're out of stuff, like the Mr. White. We were out for about a year. It came in and we sold out in a month again. So
wow. Right on. Hey, Greg, you want to get got any questions or whatnot? Any comments?
Well, you know, given it's the first time I've actually had an owner manufacturer sitting in front of me, which is amazing. When you go into blending, James, what is your thought process that's not company secret, that goes into developing a blend to put out to the consumer?
honestly, there's no secrets for my stuff anyways. It's usually, I'm a cigar geek at heart, right? So it's like right now, like on my next blend that I'm going to be going and working on, I've been getting a lot more requests on Connecticut because our last Cowboy Connecticut sells very, very well.
It's an amazing cigar.
And so everyone's like, please make another Connecticut, please make another Connecticut. So I'm going in. I'm not a big fan of Connecticut wrappers, but I'm going in and working on that one. Now, like one of the blends, African Cameroon's very hard to get. I was in the factory. It was already coming. We knew there was Cameroon coming from Cameroon, which that's the hard one to get. From Ecuador is very easy to get. And we had a constant supplier of it coming from Cameroon now. So like I was at home waiting to get back to the Dominican so I could play with that wrapper. We have so it's not like it's usually what I'm excited to play with, you know. If it's something I haven't touched before, I'm more excited to play with it. And then blending for me is I won't stop. I don't blend on my price point. So that's the difference between me and most companies. Most companies, when they come in to blend, and I'm not talking about boutiques. Maybe all the boutiques are like me, I don't know. But the bigger companies, they come in at a price point. They come in like, we want this cigar to be X amount of dollars. So now you have a very limited supply of tobacco you could play with. This stuff you can't touch because as soon as you put like one leaf of this in here, your price point's through the roof. What we do is we blend. If the cigar, like the African Cameroon blend I was working on, came out phenomenally well. It was great. But I was sick and tired of making boxes this year because of all the wood issues and stuff. I didn't want to make another line with a box, so I wanted to do some bundle stuff. So I was like, once I was done blending it, I sat down to figure out the price point, and I realized it was going to be like a $14, $15 cigar on the Robusto. I didn't want to put that in a bundle. So that just moved to the side, and I started blending other stuff. You know what I mean? So there's no, like, and then right now I'm very excited because we have our own exclusive wrapper coming out at the end of next year. I was super excited on working on, using and touching. I have another one, a seed we just popped, and I have another wrapper that I'm coming out with that's kind of more exclusive to us, and the wrapper just started coming out, so I get to play with it now, but the cigar won't hit the market for another like 3 to 4 years because it just started growing, so we cannot guarantee good wrapper yet. So we have to grow a few times, blend some cigars, and then once we get enough good grade A wrapper to use, then we can move into doing it. That's kind of what happened with this one. So the wrapper we're using now, that's going to be out end of next year. We've been growing it for like 4 years now, but we didn't have good consistent wrapper out of it yet till this year. So this year we're bringing it out. But most of the time I'm just going in there and blending, for fun. Like I took a consumer with us to the Dominican last time, and what I hated was like when I would do something, people would be standing over my shoulder like, no, you can't do that. Like, don't do that. And all the stuff that I let slide, and I was like, okay, I won't do that. I've gone back and I've tried later on because I'm like, dude, I want to try it. At first I was very like nervous and shy at the factory. Now I walk around like I own the place. So, I was like, yeah, forget you. I want to try it. Like, who cares? It's 5 cigars we're going to roll. Let's just try it. When the consumer was with me, he was making his blends, and he had Pilato Cubano binder, and then we did the pure grades obviously together. He picked the ones that he wanted to work with, and then when we got to making the blend, he put Pilato Cubano as a binder, and then he used it as a filler. So I let him do it. Like, you technically shouldn't do that because you already have it. Why are you're canceling out one of the pilotos? Well, you could add a different kind of tobacco now and get a total different flavor profile. Mm-hmm. You already have it in the binder. There's no reason to add more in the filler. And he did it. It came out. We were smoking it, and I was like, okay, do you see how mine compares a little differently than yours? And I was like, yeah, because you were redundant in your binder and your filler. You know what I mean? If you had just switched that. So with blending, I always say there's always new stuff to learn. Like every time I go, I learn something new. Like the Honor Among Thieves that we have, everyone told me you can't do that. You know, like it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's going to have combustion issues, this and that. And, you know, it didn't work at the beginning. It was all Ligero, you know, and we did have combustion issues. But if I didn't try it, I obviously after that, I was like, okay, let's put a little bit of Nicaraguan Seco between the first, second, and third Ligero. And then there's Pennsylvania broadleaf in there in the filler. So the Pennsylvania is not going to be as oily as the Ligeros, but we put it literally has 5% Nicaraguan Seco inside. Because Nicaraguan's the Seco is a lot drier. And, you know, when I was getting the batch of samples in, usually it's like a blender and a supervisor that are in charge of, like, I'll put the blend together, we'll do it, and I'll be like, okay, now I want like 20 more of these so I could take them home, or we could put it in the aging room or whatever. So I was like, yeah, I need like 40 more of these. So I came back, obviously, a week later, said I'm in the aging room for a few days. And when I came back a week later, there was like 36. And I was like, not that I care, but like, why do you guys only make 36? Because the molds have 10 of each, you know? So I was like, why did you guys make like such an odd number? It makes no sense. It's like, no, the supervisor and master blender grabs some. They really want to try it because they've never seen anything like this. So, you know, it's just little things like that. Like, you're always learning. You're always going back. You know, it sounds cooler when you say you have secrets, but honestly, my secret is we pick our own tobacco. We're very, very picky. We pick the bales. Tobacco will not go into our cigar until I pick the bale that we're using. I go through all the bales myself, leaf by leaf. It's very annoying, but I have like this OCD problem, I guess I have. And I'm very intended with our tobacco. So like, that's more the secret, huh?
You might call it OCD. I call it quality because
Yeah, it's quality
you have
control,
great
man.
sticks.
Most definitely.
And that Honor Among Thieves on your line, that's one of my two top favorites. Is that one and the Habano Vieja Lancero.
Oh, thank you. I love that Lancero too. I mean, I am a bit biased, but I would say it's one of my favorite Lanceros. But yeah, that's what comes down to. You know, the difference between the big manufacturers and me is we're never working on the price point. I did actually, the Puro that we brought out, it's our inexpensive cigar. It retails $5.50 if you're in a state with no tax. And that cigar actually took me a very long time to blend because I'm very meticulous and picky. So I had to that's the one I had to blend off the price point. So I actually spent more time blending those cigars to get them to be at that price point and still be a very good cigar. So that took me about 2 years of going back and forth and blending before we got the final rundown on it. And same thing with the Cowboy. It took me about 2 years, but this guy... I was using a lot of my favorite tobacco, so I was very like Connecticut broadleaf. I love. This has a San Andreas binder, which obviously who doesn't like San Andreas? And the filler is one of my favorite tobaccos. Is Piloto Cubano Ligero, and but I wanted to get. Obviously, I knew I was going to use these 3 things, but obviously you need more in the filler, you know. So it took me about 2 years of tweaking the filler to get exactly where I wanted to be with the Cowboy.
Now, when it comes to, and this is no disrespect to reviewers, but we've said on previous podcasts and discussed individual reviews of cigars and tasting notes and such. And like I say, no disrespect to reviewers, but we really don't give a lot of credence to it because it's usually subjective based on your tasting experience. But as far as notes in a cigar go, are you really particular about the notes, or are you looking more at the experience of the smoke?
Well, okay, so you give 5 points on your palate for taste. Sweet, sour,
Savory.
salty, shit. I always forget the last 2.
I think it's savory, isn't it?
No.
It's not? Okay.
No, I'll find out for you
Yeah.
guys and I'll text it to you. So those are your 5 palate flavor profiles.
Right.
Now, you know why everyone talks about retrohaling, right?
Yeah.
Blow the smoke out of your nose. Now, the reason why it's such a bigger experience retrohaling and you get more flavor and this and that, because the rest of your palate is in your nose. Not your palate, but your flavor profile. So, like, you know, when you smell something and you already know you're not going to touch it and eat it,
Right.
that's your, you know, that's your other taste buds talking to you. It's not your mouth telling you that you don't want to eat that thing. You've already smelled it and you're like, I don't want to stay away from this.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of that, I know I'm going to get a lot of shit for this afterwards, but a lot of that comes from memory. So, like, you might have a cigar and say, this has a lot of grassy notes to it. And he might have a cigar and say, this tastes nothing like grass to me. Now, back to memory. If you had smoked that cigar, like if you had gotten that hint as a childhood of that smell, when you were, and you associate that smell with when you were a kid playing in the grass, your mind will automatically get that flavor profile out of that cigar. A lot of it has to do with memory. So when it comes down to those flavor profiles, I don't read into them so much. We have them on our website. Like we say, this has this flavor profile, this flavor profile, this flavor profile. But again, it's all personal opinion. It's not stated facts.
Perspective, yeah.
Because you won't, because you didn't have that same experience as a child with me when I was playing in the grass, and that didn't make your mind go off that first note into the second note. I think the reviewers are cool. You know, do your thing. It's good to review them. The only thing I was not happy about was, you know, I brought out this thing called La Fabrica. It was a brand that we just put like cool ideas on and cool branding, but it was all stuff that I had pulled out of a factory's overrolls. So it's stuff they had rolled in 2016, and it was still in the factory.
Okay.
Now, I had some reviewers grabbing those and reviewing those. That's one thing like I was not happy about, because at the end of the day, I didn't make that blend. I specifically stated that it was an overroll. It wasn't something that I blended, so it was more of the idea of the branding and the look of it and packaging, and that's why we brought it out. So what I'm doing this year to fix that problem is anything that we bring out now, whether it falls into La Fabrica or into the Sinistro brand, it's going to be my blends. So if we do get a review, it's going to be reviewed on our, you know,
On your merits.
yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Not something that has been sitting in the aging room since 2016 that I didn't touch. Now, one thing I will say, it hasn't happened to me, but you know, I've seen reviews of good cigars that are boutiques, and they were rated low. And the only thing that I could suspect happened there was, hey, I'm giving too many good reviews out. I need to get one.
You
know
need to
what I mean?
spread them
Yeah.
out a little bit.
Exactly. So that's one thing that like I've seen like good cigars get bad reviews, and I'm like that's kind of what I see happen in that perspective. Like, oh, I'm not going to give, like, if you're a reviewer, let's say, I can't give my father an 80, you know, I'll be laughed upon in the industry. So like, oh, here's a no-name brand, it's a boutique, it's a good cigar, so an 80 is not bad, or a 70, you know what I mean? And we'll let this guy roll with it, so it doesn't look like I'm giving everybody 90s all the time.
Right.
That's one thing, like, I think people should be more subjective of what you do. And I really like Blind Man's Puff, because what they do with Blind Man's Puff is, so let's say they go out and buy a cigar, right?
Yeah.
They'll buy 10 of a cigar. They'll take the band off, and they'll put cigar one, and they'll buy like 5 or 6 cigars, and then they'll ship them out to their reviewers without bands. So now you're getting feedback from guys that are smoking cigars and reviewing the cigars, but without having an idea of who rolled the cigar.
Without the marketing behind the cigar. Right?
Exactly.
And back to what you were saying about flavor profile and stuff. If you've never eaten chocolate, there's no way you can get a chocolate note off of a cigar.
Exactly.
And it's subjective to you personally, you know. And if it wasn't, we'd all be wearing a yellow jumpsuit, we'd all be driving a Prius, and we'd all be smoking, whiteout. That's just the fact, you know.
Yeah, you're right. 100%.
But it's interesting to look at some of this stuff, and and just go, what were they thinking when they did that?
So-
quick question for you. When you were talking about that leaf, you're in year 4 or 5 now, and you said you'd just gotten what you felt was a quality leaf. What happens to years 1, 2, 3? Does that just get tossed on the floor, or
So this particular tobacco is very similar in look and feel to Pennsylvania and Connecticut broadleaf.
okay?
Different flavor profile, but luckily, because we're growing this stuff on our farm, like the one we own.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, the what is it called? The roll your own guys have been buying a ton of it.
Okay.
So they've been using it for I forgot what, the grotto leaf or something. You see them in liquor stores now. It's just a leaf where you can roll
Yeah.
your own thing with it. So,
Let's just call it what it is, a blunt.
well, no, it's packaged as a leaf. It's a full leaf. It's
Yeah.
not like Swisher, let's say, is compressed tobacco, right? That's
Yeah.
why it looks like that. This is a
Oh, yeah.
full leaf. It's
Oh,
not,
okay.
yeah, and you can buy it and roll whatever you want. So it's used for that, obviously, right?
Yeah.
But it's a full leaf. It's not like the compressed. It's like wood and
Particle board.
particle board.
Yeah.
Swisher is a particle board. It's a whole bunch of
Gotcha.
shit just meshed together.
Right.
As opposed to this is actually a leaf. You know what I mean? And there's no additives or anything that was made to make it into glue all that tobacco into a particle board.
Yeah.
So you still have a marketable product. It just wasn't what it was originally grown
Yeah.
for. Okay.
Well, like, look, if it was Connecticut, you wouldn't be able to sell it. You know what I mean? Or you could use. Again, if it was Connecticut, we'd be using it as filler and binder right now. So
Okay.
the real good stuff would go to binder, and then whatever is like, would go to filler. And
Okay.
again, it's all the same flavor profile. Usually, wrapper, you want the best looking one for your wrapper. So, because remember, the consumer, especially the American consumer, eats with their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And it's funny how you mentioned that, the consumer eating with their eyes. When I harken back to, anybody, new seasoned cigar smoker, you walk into a humidor and you look at the shiny band.
Yeah.
And the shiny, colorful band's going to get more play than, say, just a bundle of something. It could be a bundle of, unmarked Cubans, but you're going to gravitate towards the pretty band.
Well, because that's what we've been trained to do
Yeah.
our whole lives. Everything is marketed to us by, the shape, the color, all that. And, there's a reason that, these manufacturers spend as much time, energy, and money on bands, on boxes, on signs that go with it, the swag that goes with the line. I mean, because it's important, but I don't want to say it takes away from, but it steers your focus away from what the quality of the product is.
Yeah.
And maybe it enhances it, maybe it doesn't. It depends on the line. But at the end of the day, are you happy with what you're smoking? That's what it needs to come down to. And nobody cares. I fell into that years ago. I came in and I smoked one particular product day in and day out. And they were good sticks. And I liked them. But I never, even in a humidor this size, I didn't venture out very often. And finally, the proprietor one day, he's like, "What's the matter with you? What are you talking about? You like those sticks?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're great." He goes, "You ever tried one of these?" "No." He goes, "Why?" "Oh." He literally takes the cigar out of my mouth, puts it in the ashtray, and hands me another cigar. He goes, "Light this, tell me what you think." And that day, you're just like, wow, okay.
Yeah.
Because you get into a routine.
Yeah.
And I was happy with what I was smoking. There wasn't anything, wrong with that, but I hadn't tried anything
You were in
else.
that tunnel vision.
Yeah, I was just cruising. It was easy. It was remote control. You come in, you grab 3 of these, I'll smoke one here, I'll take a couple home. And now I'm to the point where if I pick something up light and go into like Rocky Mountain or the Big Smoke or something like that as a prime example, you get all these, Rocky Mountain, they hand you 2 bags full of cigars.
That's what
You don't know what the hell you got. You know, you go through them, you figure it out. You go around to the vendors, you know, we come see you at your booth. You know, you got 3 or 4 sample packs. Oh, yeah, I'll try these. I have no problem now where if I pick something up, I light it. And if it's not in my wheelhouse, you know, no disrespect. Hey, that's just not me.
Yeah.
And I don't have any problem putting that in the ashtray and picking up something else and relighting it.
Yeah, as a proprietor of a cigar lounge, it was you had to try the different cigars.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, so I don't know if I didn't have that, would I have been more tunnel visioned, or would I have been more like, would I be doing what you did? You know what I mean? But since I was a proprietor of a store, like, I'm going to bring this in, so I'm going to smoke it. I'm going to bring this in, I'm going to smoke. So I have to talk about it with the customer now. So I had to do that, where I was forced to do that. So, like, who knows? You know, if I wasn't in that situation, I might have done the same thing with, because I kind of eat like that. Like, if I go to a restaurant that I know I like, and there's this one dish I really, really like, I'll end up ordering the same thing all the time. So I totally understand you on that.
I think a lot of us are like that, and we kind of have to force ourselves not to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Because, I'm the same way.
When you come into a good cigar lounge, the proprietor it's up to the proprietor to open the door for you. You know, just like when I go to that restaurant, like, if the waitress was like, hey, you know, this is a great dish, but have you ever tried this? I think it's better. I would be like, oh, for real? You know, let me try that one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, you know, it's the same thing. But usually when I go back to that restaurant over and over again, I'm like, oh, I want to try this. I keep going back for the same meal, you know?
Yeah, most definitely. You're going to go
It's
with
a
what
comfort.
you trust and what you're comfortable with.
There's a comfort factor.
It's comfort,
for sure.
yeah. It is 100% comfort factor.
Yeah, I wrote an article on the website speaking on brick and mortars, and one of the things I said, rule number 1, if you're new to cigar smoking, you go into a shop, and if they try to steer you in the most expensive cigar, leave.
Yeah.
Because they have no interest in you, gaining the passion of a cigar smoker. They're just interested in making a buck, and real short-sighted, because if you take the time to steer someone into a cigar or guide them in where they're going to enjoy the experience, you're going to have a lifelong customer.
Oh yeah, like, okay, so we were just talking, like, one of my stores was 800 square feet, $13,000 a month, and my prices were insane. When, let's say, the Liga Double Corona was, I think, $14 in the stores, I was selling it for $28.99. But I had guys that would always come in, and they were big smokers, or they became big smokers. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, eventually I'm going to lose these guys to one of the other shops. It's going to happen, But the more and more they came in, the more I was like, why aren't these guys going anywhere else? They know it's less expensive down the street, So I pulled one of the guys aside, and I was like, hey, man, I'm just curious. Why don't you go to my competitor? The prices are cheaper. Like, my shop is more of a touristy shop. Like, we get a lot of people from all over the world that go visit Santana Row, and that's why my prices work, and that's how I'm staying in business.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, you're my tobacconist. He's like, you are the one who got me to this point in smoking. You were the one who told me to try this. You were the one who told me to try this. He's like, I don't want to go anywhere else. You know my palate. And, just like, even the guy knowing he's spending double the amount for the cigar, he was still coming back to me, So that shows, like, as long as you're taking care of your people, they're going to always keep coming back to you. Whether, of course, I'm sure I lost a few of the guys to other shops in the neighboring areas. It is what it is, I totally understand. Some guys smoke 5 cigars a day, and it doesn't make sense to spend double the price where you could get it, somewhere else. So,
Right.
but as long as you are there educating, you are there taking care of your people, I think you will have longevity in this industry.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And I feel the same way. It's like, this is my shop. Even if I wasn't doing this podcast here, this is my shop, because when I first walked in, I got an education.
Yeah.
So I have no problem paying the prices, whatever they may be, to keep the lights on and support this tobacconist. It's like, that's my tobacconist.
And what most people don't understand is, now, same thing with the non-smoking indoors thing. When it happened in California, everybody in Texas and Florida were like, it'll never happen here.
Yeah, surprise.
Look what happened, Now, again, I'm going to say something else that's happening in California, and it might not be happening in your state right now, but if we don't nip it in the bud now, it might happen in your state. But one thing about supporting brick and mortars, at the end of the day, in California, there's shops that are closing and going out of business, right?
Yeah.
So let's say San Jose, for instance, where I was. Try to go to the city now and get a tobacco license to sell cigars. They will not give you one. We are not opening anymore. Laguna Niguel. Go to Laguna Niguel, try to get a tobacco license. They will not give you one. Go to Pasadena, try to get a tobacco license. They will not give you one. So now, if these brick and mortars go out of business, and you live in Laguna Niguel, and that guy that's in Laguna Niguel goes out of business, what are you going to do?
That's gone forever,
It's
right?
gone forever. They're not going to bring another shop back. Laguna Niguel said we're not giving out any more tobacco licenses.
Hmm.
So at the end of the day, you might find a cigar online cheaper, but this is your escape. If you have to smoke at home all the time, your escape is gone now. You know what I mean? You're bringing, like, you're going out of your stress-free environment to come to the shop to smoke. So, I get it. Online, you might get a little bit of a discount. Online, you might get a better deal. But at the end of the day, when that guy's gone, you don't have your escape anymore. You can't run away, get out of the house. Like, the kids are bothering me. It's so loud in here. I need 5 minutes or an hour to get out. Please, babe, do me a favor, take care of the kids. I need to go have a cigar. Now, what are you going to do when Laguna Niguel shop closes? You got to drive 2 hours to have a cigar? Now your 1 hour escape is turned into a 5 hour ordeal. You know what I mean? So that's what people should really have in the back of their minds when they're buying online right now. And then it doesn't matter if you're in Florida. At some point, it'll go there. It's just a matter of time. You know what I mean?
Especially when the infection of California spreads.
It's a double infection, bro. It's like New York and Cali, and then like the virus starts coming in.
Yes.
It's like all the way to the mid.
Yeah, because you've got a lot of New Yorkers leaving New York, especially with COVID, realizing that they can do a lot of their work off site. You see a lot of people in New York heading south towards Florida for more agreeable weather. You don't have to fuck with snow, and they're bringing their ideas and beliefs out to Florida. So therefore, not only the cost of housing is going to go up and the cost of living is going to go up, but they're going to bring their ideas on tobacco. And there's a lot of people who feel that this is bad.
And another thing is with now again that falls into ignorance. With all the people, with all due respect, all the people that I have a guy that has a shop in LA. He's a good friend of mine, not only a retailer, but he's a good friend of mine. So when his business was getting affected, he had 2 brand new kids. He just had 2 kids. One is, I think, 2, and the other one's newborn. And this lady from down the street, because of COVID, she kept calling the health department on him. And every time he tried to reopen his lounge or anything, but it was always a complaint about smoking. It wasn't a COVID
Right.
It became a COVID complaint because of COVID.
Yes.
But she was more mad at the smoking. And in my head, I was like, bro, please let me go talk to her. And he's like, no, don't go. It's going to make things worse. I'm like, but I think she thinks she's going to hurt Marlboro when this shop is gone.
Right.
She's going to kill Philip Morris's sale on this corner of the street, Mm-hmm. But you don't understand, you're not hurting Marlboro. Marlboro's going to still sell his fucking cigarettes to whoever the fuck he wants.
Right.
You're hurting this guy who has 2 fucking newborn kids at home. And at the end of the day, all politics aside, how liberal is that? You're killing some dude's business to provide for his family in that to me sounds like totally against what the liberal idea is, right? It's all about supporting and helping. You know what I mean? So
helping the small businessman.
Exactly, right? So what are you doing? Okay, so he closes, he's out of business. The smoke's gone from around you, but you have 2 kids that might not have a shelter over the head or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
And most of these stores that you walk into are mom and pop operated. 99.999% of them are mom and pop operated. So there is a family attached to it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So here, it's a family run business. You have the proprietor who's ran it for a very, very long time. And, if let's say this goes away, how is the family going to survive? You know, how is it going to survive? Like, what's going to happen to them? You know, and that's what people don't realize. These people who are anti-smoking or anti-this or anti-that, like, I get it, you know, but you're not looking at the big picture. You're looking at, you want to hurt Marlboro, but at the end of the day, you'll never hurt Marlboro.
Yeah.
You'll never, ever, ever hurt R.J. Reynolds and Marlboro.
Right.
You will hurt the middle class or low class, or, you know, usually most shop owners are middle class,
Yeah.
you know, guys. So you're hurting the blue collar middle class guy. You're not hurting the big bad cigar company.
Right. Now we're getting down to the last third of our cigars. Greg, how's that treating you?
I'm about halfway through. I'm a little bit slower behind you, but its flavor is very nice. You know, I don't know what the blend is. Maybe you can help me with that, James.
Connecticut broadleaf, Maduro, wrapper, Ecuadorian Cameroon, Sumatra, double binder. So that's another one that they told me could not be done. They said you can't put more than 10% on Duyo in a cigar. So that guy has 30%. And it has Lajero from Nicaragua, Dominican, and Pennsylvania for the filler.
And see, what I noticed the most is two of my favorite wrappers are in here, or two of my favorite leaves are in here. You've got the Cameroon and the Sumatra. So I noticed those flavors up front and on my palate predominantly. And it's funny you say Maduro because I don't get the strength I normally associate with a Maduro.
Right.
And it's just beautifully blended, and it's a great stick. And it's definitely one that's going to go into my rotation.
Now that's funny because you say that you aren't really getting a Maduro. I get it on the back end, and it's not bad. It's nice. You know, your first puff, you're getting that Connecticut, but then, you know, on the last portion of that exhale, I get that, and I don't want to say bitterness, but you get the strength, and I think that's a better word. The strength of the Maduro on the last part of the exhale, and it just tops off real nice.
But that also goes back to what James was saying earlier. It's, you know, my palate versus your palate,
Yeah.
and what I'm looking for versus what you're looking for.
Absolutely. And I think also, and we touched upon this a couple of days ago, it's about the experience too. I mean, check it out. We're sitting here, we've got the privilege of having James Agopian here and talking cigars, talking about your process and whatnot, and enjoying a stick. I mean, what could be better than that?
Doing it in the Dominican Republic.
Oh,
I will have to say, like, that's one of my favorite things of the business that I get to do is blending, and specifically in the Dominican Republic. Like, if you gave me, so my dream if I could do this right now, I would do it. If I just want a house like on the beach in the Dominican, and a little small factory, not to sell anything, just to play with stuff.
Yeah.
A buncher, one pair, a buncher and a roller. And literally go in there, play with stuff, be like, hey, I want 30 of these by tomorrow, and go inside, call you guys, be like, hey, you guys got to be here tomorrow. I got this amazing stick. You guys got to come try. And that's kind of my dream is doing that.
Shit, that's my dream. Let's fire it.
Just get out of here, bro. But that's kind of like what I would love to do for the rest of my life is just play with tobacco, blend. And honestly, at the end of the day, I don't do it. Like, obviously, I'm in the business to make money, right? You have to make money. But, like, at the end of the day, I would love to be able to do this and not need to make money from it. You know what I mean? That would be my ultimate desire of doing it. And then there's no pressure, right? Because you can make something that is junk and think it's amazing and it's not going to sell anyways, but it's up to you. Now, I get that like all the time. I get butterflies in my stomach when we're bringing something new out. I'm always like, are people going to like it? Are people not going to like it? Even though I've loved the blend and I've smoked it back to back, that's kind of like always in the back of my mind. Like, because again, you're putting yourself out there. You're this is what I liked and I made this. So hopefully you guys like it too. You know?
Right. Nobody wants to be told they got an ugly baby.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And when people walk up to me at events and they're like, which one's your favorite blend? And I always look at them and I'm like, you got any kids? And they're like, yeah. I'm like, how many you got? You got 2 or 3? And I'm like, which one's your favorite? And they're like, okay, I get you, man.
Yeah, but it takes that kind of explanation sometimes to get the point across.
Yeah.
Here's a question for you. Have you found it to be an advantage or a disadvantage in the industry that you're at the point you are with your line and your age?
It was harder. So I look like I'm 25, but I'm 38. Okay, so
Yeah, but you're still at 30, at 40,
yeah.
you're still younger than
Most.
than most, right?
Yeah.
For your position in the market, correct?
So it did take a lot of time for people to take me seriously. Like box factories, band factories, as soon as they met me. And even the factories I used, dude. I walked in with basketball shorts and a t-shirt, and everyone was like, this guy's gonna sell cigars. You know what I mean? like this guy? Like, are you serious? And I felt it, you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And I could tell. And with the Dominican, it's like you, like nowadays, like 10 years ago, you know, if you were an actor, you wore a suit and this and that. Now actors wear t-shirt and jeans when they go out, you know what I mean? So in our industry, that's what it is. Like if you're a blender and a cigar manufacturer, you know, you're wearing suits and this and that. Now, you know, since the Romas and the Black Labels and the Sinistros and like these guys that have come into the industry that, you know, blend with t-shirt and jeans and, you know, go to the events in t-shirt and jeans, like it's kind of gotten more different. But I felt like it was harder when I was a shop owner because I was a lot younger back then.
Yeah.
And a lot of these reps, you know, at the end of the day, they're based, most of them are commission. So a lot of these guys would come in and be like, oh, they got the sucker for today, you know what I mean? And I could feel it when they came in, like, I was like, not happening, you know?
Yeah.
And it was and a couple of them got me, you know. And I remember one guy. I'm not gonna throw him under the bus or anything, but like I had a lighter case, and the lighter case had broken on me, so it wasn't spinning anymore. So I called him up, and I was like, and I just put in like a 10 grand order with this guy, and I called him up, and I'm like, hey bro, your case is broken, it's not spinning. Can you guys send me a new one? And he's like, James, man. He goes, I hate to do this, but you know, it takes like a 5 grand order to get a case. I'm like, well, I just placed a 10 grand order. He's like, yeah, but you got some free lighters out of it, and you know, you gotta like put in another 5 grand order if you want the case. I was like, oh, okay. I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do right now? And this was my first dealing with any rep. I'm like, you know what I'm gonna do right now? He's like, what, James? I'm like, I'm gonna hang up the phone. I'm gonna call your competitor. I'm gonna put in a 5 grand order. I'm gonna get a fucking case. Your case is gonna go in the corner because it doesn't spin anymore. So it's going to sit in the fucking corner because it doesn't spin. It has to sit in the corner now. And the other case is going to be front and center in my lounge. And then he's like, well, James, you know what? I'm like, no. You've already made this relationship start this way, bro. I'm going to do that. So I put his case in the bag. I called, at the time, it was Prometheus. That was the other big brand. I called Prometheus. I gave him a nice 5 grand order, and I put a nice spinning case in my lounge. So, you know, that happened a lot, you know, and you could tell, like, oh, this, you know, this guy's going to sucker here, sucker there. But when I got into the industry, I had, like, 2 really good mentors out in Southern California. The Ashton rep, well, now he has 5 shops, but, like, Saeed, he was an Ashton rep. He was one of my mentors growing up, helped me out a lot. And then a guy named Rafi, who had, like, 6 or 8 stores at one point. And, you know, they each taught me different things. I learned more about business and money from Rafi, and I learned more about, obviously, business and money from Saeed too, but a lot about cigars and stuff. And then, you know, there was another guy named Rigo that used to be the La Aurora rep, and I learned a lot from him growing up. But as much as there were guys there that were trying to take advantage of me, there was a lot of guys like, hey, man, this guy likes what he's doing. He's a hustler. Like, he's here every fucking day at his shop. He comes in, you know, he might be out drinking with his friends, but he'll be here at 10 a.m. You know what I mean? So there was other guys that took me under their wing and supported me and showed me the ropes. And, you know, as much as there were the asshole reps, there was the good guys there that were helping me.
Yeah, and I think that's across the board. You know, I get that in my industry too. You know, you got guys that, you know, you see him getting out of the car in front of your shop, you're like, okay, this is going to be cool. And then, you know, 4 days later, the next guy's getting out, and you're like, oh, this asshole again.
Yeah.
and I get it, but, you know, it's funny because I was wondering about that because, you know, by and large, you know, most of the guys you see, you know, they're 50, late 50s, 60s, you know, so it's refreshing to see somebody, you know.
At this point, everyone takes me seriously. Because we've hit our numbers. right?
So and you've been putting out a good product for a while now. So
I don't think that's more of an industry standard to be taken seriously as opposed to what your numbers are. Because if your numbers are good, that means you have a good product as opposed to, you know what I mean? So you could have an amazing product and your numbers could still be shit.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, that's true.
So it's more based like, oh, I see him in 90% of stores in California. Oh, I see, you know what I mean? So now, if I want to do business with the factory, it's more of like, oh, the doors are open for you, James. Just come in, whatever you want to do. You know, this, that, growers, same thing. And I've just started working really closely with El Artista, and he's only second to Placencia for tobacco. And I'm lucky because he's actually younger than me. He's 30, and he's probably Radames Rodriguez. They're both the dad and him, but he's probably one of the few that got the business passed down to him and like level-headed, and so we get along very well. Only Placencia has more tobacco than him, so because of the relationship me and him have built, and more than likely could have been off of our age group being so similar to each other, you know, we're probably the youngest two doing the biggest things kind of right now in the industry.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I'm getting close down to the nub of this, and I'm really impressed with it. It's not getting hot. It's just very even burning.
Mm-hmm. That comes with picking your tobacco, bro. If you're picking your bales, you're always going to be consistent. If you're like if you're checking on the Lajero, like don't get like what people like what as a consumer you have to understand is I might be using Criollo 98 this year for this cigar. This year, let's say this is the plant. This is the sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this year, every time the sun was here, we got overcast. So the sun's not. So obviously, from last year's crop, where let's say there was no overcast,
Right.
Now the tobacco has differed, and again, when we pick this plant, it won't touch the consumer for 5 or 6 years.
Right.
So it has to go through fermentation and all this other stuff. So to keep your blends consistent, you always have to be checking on the crop. So that's kind of like, so that's why you don't get burning hot issues with our stuff. A lot of our stuff is aged 6 years plus before we use it in the cigar. Our Mr. White has a 10-year-old wrapper. The Havana Vieja has a 12-year-old wrapper, 10-year-old binder. And again, this is all stuff that I got because of working with these factories, closely. It's not like, oh, I'm the man, I got this, I got that. It's because of the relationship I built throughout the years with these factories.
Because the work you've put in.
Yeah.
And again, like there's other boutiques that are bigger than me, and they wouldn't be able to get their hands on, let's say, Connecticut broadleaf or whatnot, So I feel like I'm lucky because this year we're, so no one knows the news yet. So first time on your show, we'll be having our own factory next year in the Dominican Republic.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
Nice.
So we kind of did it like the opposite way. We started working with factories. And another thing is, I'm not going to move the cigars I have in the factories that I have now to my factory. I'm starting fresh from that factory. Meaning new stuff will be coming out of there that we're blending for Sinistro, or it's going to be more of a boutique factory. Because a lot of people, like, I've been approached by a lot of people now. So I'm doing a blend with Island Gym right now. We're doing a blend with El Artista.
Okay.
The blends are done. We're just trying to figure out the logistics of where it's going to come from, who's going to sell it, what reps are going to sell it, and stuff like that.
Okay.
So I want to build that boutique factory for things like that. Me leaving my product at these other factories gives me an in with the tobacco also as well. So, like let's say factory grower A that sells to general, thousands of pounds of X tobacco, we will probably get it at a little bit better price because we're working closely with that factory already, and it's more of like we're together as opposed to I'm a separate factory and they're a separate factory.
Yeah.
And again, we have our own farm now where we grow the Corojo, we grow Piloto, and we grow the exclusive wrappers that we're bringing out this coming December, not this December, next December, and then we're like I said, we just popped a new seed, so I'll be playing with that stuff next time I go back to the Dominican Republic. So
Outstanding.
So
factory tours?
Of course, bro.
Nice.
We could go right now, bro. Like, not to mine, but we could go tour the factories that I use. Like, now, like I said, I was shy before. Now the military, because like most of the free zones have military in front of it. The military guy's like, oh, it's the gringo. Yeah, let him in. You know, like, it's the redheaded gringo. He's good. Just let him in. You know, and then like I walk into La Aurora through the back door because I have to park there. So I'll walk through the back door, and usually they're like, dude, why don't you come in the front? And I'm like, I've already learned the factory already, bro. I'll sneak around. And usually they give you a badge to scan to go from place to place. Like, some of the times I don't even pick it up anymore because, like, I've learned how to, like, navigate the factory. And, again, like, at first everyone's like, what the fuck is this gringo in basketball shorts walking around like he owns the place? Now they're like, I heard this the other day. It was pretty cool. I loved it. It was like 2 years ago. But, like, I was walking through the factory, and like I'm picking up Spanish, so one of the guys back there was like, "Who the fuck is this guy?" in Spanish, right? And the other guy, there were two employees of the factory, and the other guy was like, "Shh, that's Sinistro." And I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And he was like 10 feet behind me, you know, and I was like, "Hell yeah!" Sinistro, motherfucker, you know. But it was good, like being able to like know that like. Even the guys that like literally work in the factory know who I am now, so it was pretty cool. The same thing with El Artista. So anytime you guys want to go down there, if I'm there, you guys let me know, and we could do tours all day long.
Outstanding. Sounds like that.
Yeah, and the guys like I said, El Artista second to only Licencia for tobacco in the whole world. So they have full operations. Like there's well, most people don't know there's a sorting area. It's another factory that you go to where they sort all the tobacco. So like the reason why when you open a box they all have the same color is because there's a factory with 400 girls, because girls can tell 28 shades of brown, men can only tell 10 shades of brown. So there's literally a factory with like 400 or 500 girls literally, and then all they're doing is sorting different colors of wrapper. Like it's insane. Like and like so things like this. Like I never even thought like this was but when you go there you realize that it's so intricate, the whole system. Like it takes 300 hands for a cigar to get to yours. You know,
yeah.
That's insanity to me. And it's all hand produced, all handmade. You know, obviously the handmade stuff, but it takes 300 hands. About 4 to 5 years for that tobacco to hit the consumer's hands.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah,
it is. Now, usually, and you two know this, and our listeners know this.
Oh, look, here we go.
Bump the
Go ahead.
brakes.
Just stay there. I usually give a rating system on a scale of 1 to take your ass to flavor country. And this, I'm going to give like a 9.5. It's real nice, but one of the things that really attracts me to it is the construction and the fact it's not burning my hand up right now. It really enhances the experience. I've had some Churchills, and, smoke them for a while, tobacco gets heated up and you start feeling it in your hand. So you got to break out the paper clip, or if you're a little fancier, not a savage, and you have a pick.
Yeah.
But something else to add to that, if I can.
Oh, you want to add something now, Junior?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, there we go.
Because this is also important in a Churchill that you're leaving. I think you
No, by all
maybe
means.
Maybe you're not, but I'm farther along. You're farther along than I am.
Yeah.
But do you notice or not notice in this case the ash flavor is probably not there,
It's not.
and that's I like that.
Yeah.
Well, again, that falls back to picking your tobacco. Have you ever smoked a cigar and you smoke the same cigar 2 years later and you do get that ashy taste or that flavor, but it wasn't there 2 years before?
Yeah.
So that all falls back into how that tobacco was grown. If you're not hands-on, the factory will just sell you like, oh, this
You're getting 5 bundles, and here you go.
yeah, this is it. This is what you're doing. But like obviously, again, I've learned from obviously not the first time I went. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing, but I've learned throughout the years, like, oh, you got to check your tobacco. You have to make sure they're using the right bales. You know, that's stuff that I've learned by going back and forth. And one thing that I did, which blew their minds, was I stayed there for a week one time, and I was like, all right, Manuel Noah is like the master blender for La Aurora, phenomenal guy, very, very cool guy. I'm like, all right, man, I'm going to be here for first. I kept telling him I'm going to come back and I want to go through the whole experience. I want to do every fucking job from farm to factory. And they're like, yeah, no problem, you know. And I was like, they're like, yeah, crazy gringo, he'll never do it, you know. So a couple of years went by, and I was like, hey, man, I've been saying this for a while, but you know, I want to do this, you know. So I'm gonna wrap up. He's like, yeah, just pick a day and come. You know, I was like, no, dude, I seriously want to do this. And he's like, look, man, when you're in the fields and stuff, he's like, you're gonna fuck up the whole chain. He's like, you can't, like, you don't know what you're doing. So if you go in, he's like, it's a machine, even though it's not a machine. You're gonna go in, you're gonna fuck something up, and everything's gonna get held back. We can't do that. I was like, all right, so you're gonna pay somebody that day anyways, right? I'm like, okay, let me be his labor. He could just stand behind me. Anytime I fuck up, he doesn't even have to tell me to move. He just pushes me out of the way, go take over, you know? So I've done the picking of the plants. I've done the barn hanging. I've done the rope tying. Granted, I probably did the most horrible job, but I tried everything to figure out, like, you know, I feel like if I never did those steps, I would never understand fermentation. And, you know, fermentation for a company is a big deal. You have to figure out, you know, at the end of the day, you're getting your flavors from your wrapper from fermentation. Now, everybody ferments differently. So if you haven't gone from the ground up at that point, you don't know what's going to happen because you've picked that leaf now, you've hung it. So if you have never picked a leaf and hung it, how do you know what kind of fermentation it's going to need or what it's going to need? Or, you know, fermentation does usually sugar, water, H2O. So, like, if you haven't done that job yet, and that's why I think this industry is more on, you know, a master blender is usually his son's the master blender later, or, you know what I mean? Because technique is taught through the family, or in the farms, you know, it's the farm, the kids are going to take over the parents' job.
Right.
You know what I mean? So if you're new to this and you're a gringo going into it, like, you should do everything so you can figure out, you know, how every step works.
Yeah, that's wild.
The importance of all those steps.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why? Like, obviously we all know why, but why does it have to be hung in a barn? And why does it need X amount of days? Why do you have to wait for it to turn brown? Why? You know what I mean? Why is the candela this way? How many days does it take for the candela to stay green while, you know, because candela, it goes from farm straight to, you have a day in the barn, but usually goes straight to the factory, you know. So those things you'll never learn unless you're in the fields actually touching and playing with the tobacco yourself. Now, granted, I haven't grown and like touched every kind of tobacco while it's at the farm, but I got an idea, and, you know, I've touched every kind of tobacco once it's been fermented, or I've played with fermentation for almost every type of tobacco.
Well, see, that's what separates just a person who does cigars from an artisan. And I would put you in the category of an artisan.
Thank you.
God damn it, Tommy. You need to get this train schedule around our recording schedule.
Oh, I love it. It all adds to the ambiance.
Yes.
Ambiance, that's what it is.
Well, hey, the happy part is with those train horns honking, that means product is moving.
Yes.
Supply chain. Think supply chain. So, the folks out there, you hear that train horn? That's the supply chain moving. Choo choo. Yeah, and I just did that.
Wow.
Okay, let me put it to you another way. Choo choo, motherfucker. How's that?
Not quite Samuel L. Jackson, but it'll do.
Yeah.
Well, no.
Samuel L. Robinson, right here.
Goddamn right.
Good God.
Well, hey, I'm gonna just a big giant thank you for, you know, being our first, you know, founder and manufacturer to be on the show. We really appreciate you being here, and just on behalf of all of us, a big thank you.
Thank you for having me on, bro. I love doing this stuff. Like I said, dude, I think our industry is needs a lot more education, and I feel like these podcasts, like anytime anyone asks me, I try to get on it and do it because I feel like our industry needs more and more education. And if there's more people wanting to learn, you know, you got to put the information out there so people can judge and do what they want to do for themselves.
I absolutely agree. And,
Yeah,
and
100%.
don't be a stranger. Just holler and say, hey, I want to do another one. And
Oh,
we'll set it up.
absolutely.
Okay, sounds like a plan, dude. Let's do it. Hopefully, we'll have better mics next time.
We will.
Oh, you got that one in there.
He's fitting right in.
I love it.
Shots fired.
Well, folks, looks like my smoke's coming down to the nub and my scotch glass is obviously empty, so I think it's about that time. I want to thank our audience out there. I want to once again thank James Agopian from Sinistro, and on behalf of Greg, Larry, and myself, big giant thank you, and again, thank you to the audience. Check us out at LumaCigarCartel.com. Like and share us on Facebook. Check us out on YouTube under Luma Cigar Cartel and Instagram. Don't be a stranger. Drop us a line and let us know you guys are out there. I'm Scott Robinson, and on behalf of all of us here at Beyond the Humidor, we look forward to chatting with you on our next episode. But until then, stay safe, stay healthy, take care, and good smoke, good drink, and good life.
I'll smoke to that.